probably hear right now, I was not planning on going live. This is going to be super quick. I'll post it, so if you want to see it later. But I just had, also, I will be live later today, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Yikes. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. The reason I'm making this video right now, I wasn't going to sort of talk about this because this is something that I just don't know a lot about. I do not know a lot about the history of Israel and Palestine. I know other things, but I don't know a lot about that. I recently had a comment. Hello, whoever just joined. You are my only viewer. I was not planning on going live right now. 2 people, cool. Okay, wasn't planning on going live, just had a question on the last video that I posted. I will be live later, that's the main event. This is just the appetizer to the main event. So the question that I had on a video that I just posted was, can you make a video about the Israel-Palestine conflict? And the reason I haven't really talked about that is because it's just not something that I know a whole lot about. Hey, what's up? Yes, I will be live later at 8 p.m. That's my real live. This is just the little appetizer, something I'm doing off the cuff. So I had this question to make a video about the Israel-Palestine conflict. And again, I don't know a whole lot about the history, and I don't like to have a solid opinion on things that I don't know too much about. But I do know a little bit, and I'll tell you what I do know. And then I would love to hear what you know. And I'm going to take it to, I think the person that says it best of what I know is my lady, Joan Rivers. And this video I'm going to show you is her in 2014 when she was asked about the conflict while she was at the airport. So I'm going to show you that. Oh, there's Eva right behind me. I'll show you that. Hey, Kelly. Kelly, I'm going to be live later at 8 p.m. That's the real live. This is just something I'm doing really quick. So I'm going to show you this video of Joan Rivers. By the way, Joan Rivers, she is probably the only celebrity. Hey, Al. Joan Rivers is probably the only celebrity that when she passed away, I actually felt like the world lost something. And she's also one of the people that if she could come back, they asked that question, if there's one person that's passed away that you could bring back and interview, she is definitely one of those people. I would love to hear her thoughts on the world as we live in it today. But I'm going to show you this, and this is Joan Rivers being asked about the Israel-Palestine conflict. So the same exact thing was happening back in 2014. I believe this conflict started in 2000, somewhere around that. So this is Joan Rivers back in 2014. I miss Joan. She was the most honest person in Hollywood. I know, that's why I would love, man, to just sit down with her today and to get her thoughts on the world as it is today. Al, she was murdered. Anywho, okay, so this is Joan at the airport being asked about the Israeli-Palestine conflict back in 2014. So I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to make sure my volume is up so you can hear it.
So I'm trying to get celebrity reactions to what's going on with the Palestinians and Israelis right now.
Let me just tell you, if New Jersey were firing rockets into New York, we would wipe them out. I am so bored. We heard they were digging tunnels from New Jersey to New York. We would get rid of Jersey. So I don't want to hear anymore. Oh, we'll do a partial truce. The Palestinians, you cannot throw rockets and expect people not to defend themselves.
What about the civilian casualty rate?
Then don't put your goddamn things in private homes. I'm sorry, don't you dare put weapon stashes in private homes, and then we say get out. Of course, we're going to do it.
The response normally is where are the civilians supposed to go?
I don't care. They started it. You're all insane. They started it. What are you all saying? They started it. The Israelis did not throw their... For months this has been going on.
How do you resolve
What are you supposed to do?
How do you resolve
it? I know, because I have been over there. That's how I know. And I wish the world would know. And BBC should be ashamed of themselves. And CNN should be ashamed of themselves. And everybody, stop it already.
You know, like Dwight Howard tweeted, Free Palestine, took it back. Selena Gomez tweeted a pro-Gaza.
Oh, Selena Gomez. Oh, yeah, that college grad.
All right, Joan, thank you.
Well, if Selena said that.
Did Rihanna have to take
if she can spell Palestinian.
I'll ask her right now. Thanks, Joan. Have a great day.
Oh, I love her. So basically, I mean, that's how I feel about it. Again, I don't know the history. Don't you love Joan Rivers? She just makes people so happy too. She is a firecracker, Kelly. But that's basically my thoughts on it. You know, everything that I've read, again, I'm not an expert on this. I don't know, so don't take my opinion. We're just chatting. I love that energy too. We need more of that. And she's staunch in her beliefs. And I believe the same thing. They started it. If you start something, you attack someone else, that person has the right to defend themselves. You attack a country, you attack a state, you attack anything, they have the right to defend themselves. And this idea and what they do is they're putting their children in these areas where the missiles are. Exactly, she spoke her mind. They're putting their missiles in the area where these children are, and I've seen this tactic time and time again, researching these videos, whether it's I did a lot before I started making these videos. I did do a lot of research into terrorism and things like that, and this is a common tactic that people use. They use it on the southern border. They use it in riots. They do it all the time. They will use their children or women basically as shields, and then when people retaliate, they're like, why are you hurting the children and they use that to make the other party look bad when they're merely defending themselves. How many times have we seen it over the summer with the rioters? They will go and attack the police officers, attack, and then when the police officers retaliate, that's when they start filming, and that's the footage they get. And that apparently is what I have read is what's happening in Israel, Palestine. Joan told the truth about Michelle. Freedom of speech has turned into fear of speech. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I know. All I know is if somebody attacks you, you have the right to defend yourselves and get your kids and your families and your people out of those areas. Do not attack somebody and not expect them to defend themselves. What are they supposed to do? I've also heard, and Joan said it in this video, are we comparing riots to a war? Come on, Sarah. No, I'm comparing a tactic. I'm not comparing riots to leave. They tell them it's psychological warfare when the Israeli people are warning them that these things are coming. I'm not comparing them to riots. I'm saying that I've seen this used time and time again, whether it's on the border, whether it's here, whether it's there, and going into civilian areas, that's a war crime, a huge war crime. So I'm not comparing that at all. Please don't, I don't mean to make that comparison at all. So there's that. And I do know that on the streets where I live in West Hollywood, and this story came out a little while ago. And again, I'm not saying I'm with this side or that side. It's a cowardly tactic. Yeah, and I've seen it used a lot. And I'm not saying I'm for this side or that side because there's a history that I don't understand, and I'm not going to pretend like I do understand, but I do think that people have the right to defend themselves and get your children out of those areas and get your civilians out of those areas. If you're going to wage war on someone, get your people out. That's my only opinion. And I do know that I think there's something to be said, and I would love to know your thoughts on this. And I don't mean to defend, President Trump. Yes, I like him. Yes, I voted for him, but this isn't a pro-Trump thing. Hello. But I will say that there's a lot of moving parts over there. Yeah, totally. And I don't understand any of that. I do think there's something to be said, and I would like your thoughts on this. When Trump was in office, he had so that was in 2014 when this was happening, when that video of Joan was filmed. I just loved her opinion. Yes, I do like Trump, but there is something to be said about, Trump had a very strong, he was always very vocal about his strong allyship with Israel. And you could maybe argue, did they not do this during the Trump years because they knew that he had a strong allyship with Israel? There is something to be said for that. There is something there, and Biden is pro, helping both sides. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts. When Trump was in office, we had historic peace in the Middle East. And I think having that strong allyship kept peace. There could be an argument made there. Did that keep the peace? Saying, this is my ally, we stand with Israel, we have the same values. This is who we stand for, and nothing ever happened when Trump was in office. Biden doesn't have that stance. He is the boss of all bosses. Yeah, and I mean, it's so weird. Like, I don't mean to always like defend him. I hate when I do that because people are like, "What are you, a Trumper? You Trumper? You're always defending him." I don't mean to, but he's right about a lot of things, and he had good instincts about a lot of things. And if Palestine knows that, you know, the US, we're, you know, the most powerful country in the world, Trump had a backbone, the man that saved our country. You know, when he's in office and we're the most powerful country in the world with our military and everything at our fingertips, and you as Palestine know that you're not going to get any aid, that you're not going to get help, that America is going to be on the side of Palestine, you know, they didn't try that under Trump. They tried it under Biden. I used to have love for Trump. I used to have love for Trump. Why don't you anymore? Biden is brainless. Yeah. And he's giving aid to both sides. And it's interesting too, because I've talked to family members that are, you know, very pro-Trump, very staunch Republican, that are actually, why do so many conservatives care about Israel? They are not our allies. They are leeches. I think that a lot of conservatives stand with Israel because I think they have Western values that are very similar to our values. Again, like, I can't go into detail. It's not something I know a whole lot about. I'm just speaking from just pray that they're not in war after Creepy Joe meets with Putin. Bad idea. But I will say, I do think that a lot of countries are taking advantage of the fact that we have a weaker president. I do think that. I do think that. And having a strong stance one way or another, like, kept us out of conflict and kept other people out of conflict. And I think that I obviously can't speak for everyone. I think the reason that America has a strong allyship with Israel, and why conservatives have strong allyships with Israel, are just because they share a lot of the Western values in the Middle East. I think that's where a lot of the allyship comes from. But I'm not a staunch, I don't believe in having a staunch allyship with anyone. I believe in having nuanced perspectives over every group. Military industrial complex owns Congress. Interesting. Say more. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Someone wanted me to talk about it. I talked about it. Let me know if you have any questions or anything. I'm going to be live actually talking about, I just went to DC. I explored Richmond, saw a lot of the aftermath from the BLM. A lot of people don't know this, but they were 90 consecutive days. We aren't respected with Biden. We have become a joke on the world stage. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And I think that's what some of this is the fact that we're a little bit weaker. We're not holding that strong allyship. But I don't believe in the comment about why conservatives are always backing Israel. I don't believe in having a staunch allyship to anything or anyone. Always be nuanced. Take it for what it is. Look at things for what it is. But that's what I've observed and what I know so far. And, you know, I don't stand with anyone. I just stand against violence. That is always my stance. I stand against violence. And if you start something, the other person, the other party, country, state, whatever, has a right to defend themselves. Just like, you know, in West Hollywood, actually, I don't know if you heard about this. Did you guys hear about the story? It was in West Hollywood. It happened the other week, and it was a group of pro-Palestinian protesters. They were driving through West Hollywood. Those are my streets. You know, I'm staying with my parents in Virginia right now, but those, I love Joan Rivers too. Make love, not war. Yeah, I'm just always on the side of just defend yourself. That's it. But there were a group of pro-Palestinian protesters. We've done this before. What is a protester? But they were driving around West Hollywood and in their cars, like kind of hanging out of their cars, going around asking people if they were Jewish, and if they were beating them up. And I think that being against people being beaten up isn't having a strong allyship to this or that or this. It's just saying, I don't like violence. Hello, zombies. I'll be live later at 8 p.m. I'll be getting off here in just a second. I agree with Al. If anyone decides to attack us, it will be under the Biden admin. Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen. But now we have a weak president, and we have people. I talked to someone that lives in Canada, and this has nothing to do with Israel, Palestine. But I have friends that live in Canada and say that when Trump was in office, a lot of people fled the border over into Canada, and then they came back when he left. And a lot of people surged our border even before they started surging, even before Biden reversed all of those things, because they know. Looks like she's a tweaker. I don't know who that is or what that means. Because they knew that he was going to be a lot weaker on immigration. They know where people stand and where their stance is. So there's that. Those are my thoughts. Oh, but what happened on my streets? Yeah. Now would be the time. The Dems love emergencies. They get their agenda done. Yeah. Hello, Sarah. Hello. If you're just joining, I'm getting off in just a second, but I'll be back on talking about all kinds of other things that we're not talking about now at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. But those are my thoughts. Yeah, but that happened the other week. You had these, I'm neither Republican nor Democrat. I am a social conservative and fiscal liberal, so I'm libertarian. I know sometimes I say sometimes I think I'm a little bit socially liberal and more like fiscally conservative. But you know what? Actually, that's wrong. I'm becoming more and more socially conservative. And I almost feel like I was forced into being socially conservative, because that's how off the deep end the far left on the Democratic Party has become. I think they're forcing people to become conservative. But the older I get, you always look at, oh, thank you very much. The older I get, the more I realize how much those values are important, how much like family, church, community. Whoever did that, thank you. I didn't see the super chat. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. It's Kelly. Thank you very much, Kelly. That's really sweet. But yeah, I feel like the older I get, the more I realize how important those values are. Family, sense of community, law and order, just all of those things. Social conservatism is the only way when degeneracy is the way things are going. Absolutely. I always say this. I'm like, I was forced into this. I never thought I would be socially conservative. If you would tell me this when I was 15, 16, 17, I would have been like, are you crazy? But that's just how insane our world has gotten. And especially living in West Hollywood and living in California, which is just liberal haven. I mean, that even pushed me because it's so liberal, which I like it most of the time. Thank you very much. I always enjoy your videos. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. I love living in liberal areas, but it has gotten so off the deep end, some of it. I'm a Thomas Massey Tulsi type. Tulsi Gabbard? I don't know what that was. Anywho, but I'll probably get off here in a minute. Oh, I was finishing, but what I was talking about, in my neighborhood, I watch your spot on Gen Z. Great. Oh, thank you. Were you socially conservative when you were younger? I was growing up in California. I would have said, I don't know. I mean, I definitely had a period of my life where I got in trouble a lot, and like I wasn't like experimenting, but I don't know. I've always valued reading. I've always valued church. I grew up going to church. But I think I got caught up in sort of like the feminism and the being young and liberal. Like I got caught up in that a little bit, but it never went too far. I went on a road trip to Hollywood in the 90s and I got a creepy vibe even back then. Yeah, you were a liberal, but you have been saved. I have been. There's a lot of people that are attracted to Hollywood that are just lost. A lot of people, they're unhappy with their lives and they're moving to Hollywood and West Hollywood in search of fame, in search of money. And so I think a lot of people that are there are just lost. And I realized when I lived there that a lot of the people I looked up to, like a lot of actors, not all of them by any means, but a lot of people that you see on TV that seem like they have everything, a lot of those people are in fact miserable, and they're some of the most miserable people I've ever met. So I learned very quickly living in West Hollywood that money doesn't mean anything, fame doesn't mean anything, success doesn't mean anything unless you have good values. When you were very young growing up, you were learning, and then you graduate to being mature conservative. Yeah, what's the saying? If you're young and not a liberal, you have no heart. If you're older and not a conservative, you have no mind. Very true for me. But I hope those thoughts made sense. I don't know a whole lot about Israel, Palestine. I just, I don't like violence, and you should be able to defend yourself and get your kids and your families out of those areas where you are starting warfare, and listen to the warnings. That's all I know. But anyway, I'll be live later. I'm going to talk a lot about sort of what has happened with the defund the police, the riots. I'm around Richmond, Winston Churchill. I'm around Richmond, and I didn't realize this, but Richmond had, dang, I guess I don't have a heart. No, you're a heartless soul. If you've always been a Republican, you're a heartless soul. I'm just kidding. No, that just means you were smarter than I was. Okay, so I'll see you guys later. Yeah, but I wanted to talk about what happened in Richmond. I learned some really interesting things about Richmond. Richmond used to be the Confederate capital, or it was the capital of the Confederacy. Jefferson Davis was basically the president of the Confederacy. Blech. And Richmond had 90 consecutive days of basically like protests, and they knocked down a lot of the Monument Avenue, a lot of the monuments. So I wanted to talk about that and sort of where we are a year later with defunding the police, BLM, all that. Okay. Thank you very much. Jeff Davis is the name of a county in Texas. I wonder if it's after him or if it's a different Jeff. All right, I will see you all later tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Respect, Richmond. All right, you guys, I'll see you later. 8 p.m. Pacific. No, scratch that. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I will see you later. Yeah, the monuments are missed by some of us. I miss them too, but we'll talk more later. Okay, bye, you guys. I will see you later tonight. Bye. How do I turn this thing off? I never know how to turn it off.